Most of these bank fee stories end with the deadline already passed. This one is different because for CIBC, the door is still open, at least for now. A court approved a $26 million settlement covering people who held CIBC or Renaissance mutual funds through a discount broker. And the deadline to make a claim is October 21st, 2026, which, depending on when you're watching this, may not have passed yet. There's a second separate settlement too, 11 million for people who held those same funds through an advisor instead of a discount broker. Two settlements, same underlying fee. Now the framing that matters, CIBC did not admit it did anything wrong. It settled the way companies do to close a lawsuit. And I'm not here to tell you you're owed money. I can't. What I can do is explain the fee and point you to the only place that can tell you if you qualify. I'm Mike. Let me show you the fee this case was about, whether it touched your money and how to make sure it never does again. So did you pay it? The test is simple. If you held a CIBC or Renaissance mutual fund through a discount brokerage, bought it yourself, no advisor, a trailing commission was very likely baked into that fund's fee, leaving the fund's assets year after year. You never saw it as a withdrawal. It lived inside the MER. The all-in yearly fee skimmed off the top before you ever saw a return. A fee you can't feel is a fee you don't fight. Because the claim window here is genuinely still open as I record this. This is the one case where it's worth checking. Not from me, from the official administrator. They decide eligibility, not a YouTube video. If the date's passed by the time you're watching, the rest of this is still exactly what you need. The fee has a boring name, a trailing commission, trailer fee if you want the short version, and boring names are exactly how expensive things stay hidden. When you buy a mutual fund, a slice of that fund's money is paid out every year to whoever sold it to you. The stated reason is ongoing advice. Someone keeping an eye on your money, rebalancing, talking you off the ledge when markets drop. That's a fair trade if you're getting advice. Pay for advice, get advice. Nobody sensible is mad about that, but plenty of people didn't buy through an advisor. They bought their funds themselves online through a discount brokerage, CIBC Investor's Edge, or one like it. A discount broker is do-it-yourself by design. By the regulator's own rules, it is not allowed to give you personal advice. That's the whole deal. It's cheaper precisely because you're on your own. And yet, the advice fee, the trailing commission, was still paid out of the fund year after year. That, in plain terms, is what every one of these cases is about. An advice fee on funds people picked themselves where no advice was given or allowed. And this wasn't a rounding error. Across the industry, this ran for the better part of 2 decades on a lot of accounts, quietly, the whole time. Small percentage, enormous base. That's how a fee nobody feels adds up to court cases with millions attached. Here's the tell that it was a real problem. Not just lawyers being lawyers, the regulators themselves eventually agreed. They didn't find one bad apple. They changed the rule for everyone. We'll get to exactly what they did in a minute. Here's the good news and the catch. The good news, in 2022, Canada's regulators banned trailing commissions from being paid to discount brokers, full stop. That specific loophole is closed. The catch, bank mutual funds still carry high fees. Take the trailer out, and a lot of them still charge you well over 2% a year all in. The loophole closing didn't make the funds cheap. It just removed one ingredient. 2% sounds small. Over an investing lifetime, it can quietly eat a huge share of what your money would have earned. Not opinion, just compounding, running in the fund company's favor instead of yours. For a sense of scale, on a portfolio you hold for decades, the difference between a 2% fund and a cheap index fund can add up to a genuinely life-changing number by the end. Same markets, same you. just fees. So the move, and it's simpler than the industry makes it feel. 1. Find what you actually hold. Every Canadian fund has a 2-page document called Fund Facts, and the fee is printed right on it. 2. If the fee is high and no real advice is coming with it, ask the obvious question. Why pay an advice price for a product you manage yourself? 3. For most people, the answer is a low-cost index fund or ETF. Same markets, a fraction of the fee. You don't need to be clever, you need to be cheap. Boring and cheap beats exciting and expensive over a lifetime. Honesty. Note, before I name a single brand, I use Wealth Simple, and if you sign up through my link, I get a referral bonus. I'm telling you up front so you can weigh it. And then I'm going to tell you where it falls short, because that's what makes a recommendation worth anything. The reason I point beginners here is simple. It makes the cheap, boring thing easy. Open a self-directed account, TFSA, RRSP, whatever fits, and buy low-fee index ETFs without a branch talking you into a 2% fund on the way out. The fees are a fraction of a bank mutual funds. For someone whose whole problem was an invisible trailing commission, that's the direct fix. Now, the honest downsides, because they're real. It's a newer company than a 200-year-old bank. That spooks some people, and that's fair. There's no branch to walk into. If what you want is a human across a desk who knows your name, a discount platform, and mine included, isn't that real trade, not a footnote? And self-directed means what it says. Nobody stops you from a dumb move. The expensive fund at least came with a person. Do it yourself means the discipline is yours. So it's not bank bad, app good. It's this: if you were paying for advice you never got, stop. And a low-fee self-directed account is the cleanest way to stop. If you genuinely use advice, pay for it with your eyes open. The crime was never the fee. It was the fee for nothing. Here's what to actually do after this. Pull up one fund you own, find its fund facts, 2 pages, online in 30 seconds, and read the MER. Then ask, am I getting advice worth that number? If you want the full breakdown, how the MER is built, how bank branches sell these funds, and every one of these cases laid out, settled versus proposed versus still just alleged, that's the main video this one comes from. It's on screen now. On the settlement itself, I'm not your lawyer, and this isn't legal advice. Whether you can still file and who's covered is decided by the official settlement administrator. Check their notice. Not a headline and not me. One more honest line before I let you go. If you have a real advisor who earns their fee, plans your taxes, keeps you invested when you'd otherwise panic sell, keep paying them gladly. This was never anti-advice. It was anti-paying for advice you never got. And the standard reminder, this is education, not financial advice, and I'm not your lawyer, your money, your call. I'm just the guy who paid these fees for years before he understood them. One last thing before you go, because this is so much bigger than CIBC. And here's the thing, CIBC isn't alone. It's one of a whole wave of these cases against other big banks and major fund managers, everyone over this same trailing commission fee on funds people bought themselves. The details matter, and they're easy to get wrong. Some of those cases have settled, like CIBC's. Some are only proposed and not yet approved by a court. And several are still just allegations the companies deny and are fighting. But CIBC's is the one where the clock might still be running. That claim deadline, October 21st, 2026, may not have passed as you watch this. If it hasn't, the official administrator, not me, decides whether you qualify. So go check. And if you want the full map, every bank, which settled, which is still contested, and what it means for you, I lay them all out in the main video this one comes from. But whatever you find there, do the 2-minute fund facts check on your own funds first. That's the part that actually puts money back in your pocket. I'm Mike. See you in the next one.